Okay, round 3, here we go. Tactics. And this is a short video just covering the basic point about tactics. And the basic point is you've got to find a way to make your gunfights unfair. So to give yourself the advantage over the other guy. And that's the one key point I want to get across in this video. And the point about unfair fights is going to be the starting point for what I'm going to say about tactics in the videos after this. So unfair gunfight might mean you're behind cover and they're not, or you're shooting them in the back, or you're shooting them when they're not ready, or when they're sprinting. You can get an advantage in different ways, and there are different ways of doing it depending on whether you're playing with an assault rifle or SMG. With an SMG, in my opinion, it's more about getting into a position where you can shoot them in the back or in the side, because you can move faster with SMGs. With an assault rifle, it's more about sitting behind cover to get the upper hand, because you're not fast enough to get into positions where you can surprise them. But I'm not going to cover the detailed stuff now, because I just want to get the basic point across. I'm going to show you a game where I'm able to make almost all the gunfights completely unfair. I'm using surprise surprise silenced MP7, and I camp out a couple of kills at the start, and that's one way of making the fight unfair. But I'm not just going to sit there the whole game. And then I just run at them. So I get a bit lucky, but the idea is to rush and shoot before they're ready for me. And I'm not being reckless. There's an idea behind it, which is they're not going to be ready, and that's going to give me the advantage. And that works out. So I managed to fight through a few of them. And once I've done that, I'm in behind them. For the whole of the rest of the streak, I'm basically shooting them in the back, and they never see it coming. So I make sure that all of the gunfights are completely loaded and rigged in my favour. I think there's about one fair gunfight in the whole streak from here on in, and I almost die from it, by the way. Now, you're not going to have games like this all the time. You're not going to get in this situation all the time. I certainly don't. But you can see it's a whole lot easier to get kills when you're in behind them with a silencer and assassin on. So if you get into this kind of situation, you've really got to make the most of it. You've really got to milk it for kills and be careful not to die. Obviously it's very easy to die, and if you get killed, you're going to be back at your own spawn. They're going to know where you are, they're going to know where you're coming from, and you're going to have to get into fair gunfights, and fair fights are obviously going to be much harder to win than unfair gunfights. Getting into their spawn like this is the best way of getting a Moab. So get yourself into the position where you're going to get the most kills at the lowest risk. And I know you see videos on YouTube of some guy charging around like a maniac, killing everyone and getting 24 kills. But really you can find anything on YouTube. So you can find people getting Moabs with a riot shield or a knife. This is how you get a Moab in the real world. So get into their spawn with a silenced gun. Make sure you watch your back and keep shooting them when they're not looking or not ready. So highest chance of getting kills, lowest chance of dying, obviously. And you can play like this without flipping the spawns on domination, and on most of the maps at least. But you've got to be careful, and if too many of the team does it, then it clearly is going to flip. And in the next few videos, I'm going to talk in a bit more detail about how I think you can make your gunfights unfair. I'm going to give you a system for playing as well. But my tactics aren't perfect. So in the last vid, I looked at some stats, and we saw a guy with the same accuracy as me, but double the KD. So clearly I could change up a few things about the way I play. But even if I do get some stuff wrong, the basic idea is definitely right, and you've got to figure out a way of rigging the gunfight, make it as unfair as possible. If you keep charging into fair fights like a maniac, you're going to get yourself killed. And this idea of unfair fights is going to feed into everything else I've got to say about tactics. So there's the Moab. That's all I've got to say for now. See you next time.